And welcome. This is Tiff from Tiff's Creatives, and I'm glad to have you with me today. We are going to look into making faux rice paper. I saw this on YouTube and I was excited to try it myself. And I've already done an experiment, but what I found is that not all glues are the same. And I really struggled because initially I didn't have any Elmer's glue. And that's what I see everybody using is Elmer's glue and experimenting with that. So I used different glues at first, and that glue provided a problem where it started to crack and it was really crispy, and the results didn't turn out like the other people on YouTube. And so that brought me to wondering, so, you know, what glues are good? So, and what ones aren't good? Are all PVA glues the same or not? Evidently not, because the one I used, which was a wood glue, produced a result where my product was cracking and crispy and falling apart instead of soft and supple with the flex that it needs to have if you're using it in a journal or some other way. And rice paper is so beautiful. The real rice paper is beautiful. It has all those wonderful fibers in it. The texture is great, but it's really expensive. So I was excited that there was a way for me to do this myself using certain ingredients without having to spend a lot of money. So I went ahead and washed some clothes and got some used dryer sheets, watched my videos again, gathered my glue, my tissue, my Kleenex, and a non-sticky surface, and got ready to try doing something different and trying more glue experiments. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to put some faux rice paper together using the Kleenex and stuff, and we're going to do this together, learn how to do it, and then see how the results turn out. So here are the glues, not all of them the same. These are the ones I tried, the Type Bond, Walmart, Elmer's, Liquitex, and one other. Oh, Walmart Matte Medium. This is a cute little box that I used. Now, when you're taking your tissue pieces apart or your Kleenex pieces apart, you do the tape trick. I was trying to be lazy and not use a tape trick, and it was taking me too long. Finally got my tape, and that was a much better experience. What I didn't realize is when I see people take these Kleenexes apart, often it just seems like there's one layer that's peeled off, and then the other layer is the one with the image on it. Well, apparently there can be 3 layers. So there was a second layer I needed to peel off to get to the single layer with the image on it. So I had 2 plain ones set to the side. So here's a list again of the things that you'll need: the tissue paper, napkins, dryer sheets that I used, the PVA glue, a paintbrush, some water to thin down your glue, and a plastic bag because that helps things not stick. So once again, I've got another piece of Kleenex, taking off the exterior layers, getting down to that single layer where we're going to paint the glue over it. And I did mention that there's going to be a plastic sack that I'm going to use. And I learned that off of a YouTuber. And it's a grocery store plastic sack, and it was the one thing that these glues did not adhere to and give you a problem peeling the product, end result away. So getting these tissues and Kleenexes off of that, off of your plastic protective layer, the best thing really is that plastic sack. Now, your dryer sheets should be used. So I just, after I do laundry, I just collect them and save them because I really do think rice paper is fun and beautiful, and this is an inexpensive way to do it once you get all the glues straightened out, which are the best. So our challenge is going to start at the end of this. We're going to use different glues throughout putting these together. And so I have my first layer of the cute little fox down, putting the... All right, so we are going to get the little cute fox image down. Um, excuse me, I've been a little bit sick here lately. Um, and we've got our little bunny tissue, which I really like. I think it's adorable. We're going to get that down. Um, there is a lot of glue used when doing this. Um, Even with it mixed with water, it is important to have enough. And at one point, I do run out of my glue. So I'm using the yellow Type Bond wood glue here, and I do run out of it and end up mixing some of the Elmer's glue into it, which I don't think was a problem really. But I did end up having to go to the store to buy more glue because I ran out and had to kind of stop midway at one point. That was earlier on. So here I am putting the dryer sheet into the glue that I painted onto the surface. And so I kind of like doing that. It felt like I got that dryer sheet well saturated if I painted the glue onto the surface first, put the dryer sheet on top of that, and then put more glue on top of the dryer sheet. And that thoroughly saturates that dryer sheet. Then I'm able to put the tissue over the top and then lightly tap it in. And as I do that, it sets in very nicely. I probably could have gone a little lighter handed with the excuse me, with the brush here, and 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 felt like I really had it saturated enough at one point, but I did keep going. And I am brushing pretty lightly. It looks like I'm heavy-handed, but I was going pretty lightly with the brush. I'm trying to just use the tip of the bristles because this will tear easily. And here I am using the rest of the Type Bond there and running out. So I do end up grabbing the Elmer's glue, so I clean out the little container and I put the Elmer's glue in there. And it is a ratio of 2/3 of your PVA glue to 1/3 water. And I probably am short on my ratio here. I don't put enough glue in, and I put more water than glue. And so I don't know if that created some of the problem I had. Maybe somebody knows if that is an issue and they've had that issue that they didn't do the ratio well enough. And so that created a problem with the end result of their rice paper. But I do realize at one point that my glue here is too thin. And so I add more glue in. Into the jar, onto my brush, and get it a little thicker. So as I'm brushing this on here, I accidentally rip the bunny rabbit, rip the bunny rabbit there. And, it's okay if that happens. Being a perfectionist, it could really drive you nuts. And it's like, oh no, I just ripped it. I need to start over. But what I've learned in junk journaling and crafting in general, you can cover up any mistake. There isn't anything so outrageous that you have to just toss it. I know we have tossed things. I have tossed things, but for the most part, you can kind of think outside the box and figure out something new and different to do with the item that may be damaged or whatever. So I do have a pretty significant tear over the bunnies here. And I just try to kind of go with it, realize that later on I can fix that, that I don't need to just throw it out right now. And what I also know is that as I apply the glue, it will cover that hole. There's the dryer sheet there, so there won't be an actual hole. It will be solid over that, and I'll just have to deal with that later. So I saturate the surface again with glue, and this time I think, oh, I'm going to try it without the dryer sheet. I've also seen it done that way. So I put the cute little fox down in the glue only with no dryer sheet. So that's one of the tests I'm doing, is the Elmer's glue and just the cute little fox down. And I want to see what kind of result that will have in the end. So I tap it down, tap the tissue down, make sure that it's saturated with glue on top again, paint that with the Elmer's, and get a little lighter handed than I was on the other one. So I make sure that I don't tear the cute little foxes. I got these wonderful little tissues in England when we were traveling through England, because I can't find anything cool like this around where I live. I have a really hard time finding adorable imprinted tissues. Even napkins are hard to find. The ones I find are at the Dollar Tree, and that has a limited amount of, wonderful images on the napkins, and they don't change out very often. So when I was in England, I think I bought like 12 packets of those tissues for blowing your nose on, basically. And I hoarded those and took those home. So here, what we're doing now is once again applying a lot of glue onto the dryer sheet and getting that nice and saturated here. Still using the Elmer's glue at this time. And what we're going to do is we're going to try using some rose petals. I thought that might look really neat in between some dryer sheets and could have a beautiful effect. So I was excited to try this. I'm really saturating that dryer sheet heavily with glue. As those rose petals are dried out, and they're very dried out. I mean, they're nice and crispy. So I wanted them to kind of rehydrate a little bit with the glue and soften so that they would not just crack into a billion pieces as I layered the other dryer sheet on top. So I'm spreading these out across the dryer sheet, just trying to get them in not any kind of pattern, just set out there nicely. And then what I'm going to do from there is try to press them into the glue a little bit or tap them down and add some glue on top. Again, trying to actually rehydrate these a little bit so they'll get a little softer. And as I put the dryer sheet on top, maybe, and I also put a piece of tissue on there as well. What I'm hoping is that they'll just kind of lay in there nicely without cracking and, looking awful. So this is the tissue that I lay on top before I put the dryer sheet on. Just trying to give a little bit more hold there, and hoping that the dryer or the tissue will just kind of suck into the glue and kind of pull into the rose petals as well. So I'm just using my fingers this time to tap things in gently, so that even if they crack, that they'll just hold together and look like a whole rose petal. And adding more glue on top, the glue has that water in it, so it will rehydrate the petals a little bit and allow them to lay nicely. And I was curious as to whether or not the rose petals, which were from a bouquet that my husband gave me, would also kind of bleed, if the color would bleed out. So that was one of the other things I was testing with this trial here. And then I thought, let's put some bling on. So I threw a little bit of sparkling in there and put a little glitter on top, and that completed that test with the rose petals. This is the white Titebond I used on here, and the Titebond, this one you can't see through as much. It has definitely a strong hold when it adheres to the plastic when you try to take it off. You saw that earlier. It is crunchy. I wish you could see the fibers in there. And it will fall apart. So that's the white Titebond, And yeah, would not recommend this wood glue that was diluted with water. Diluted with water, white PVA glue, which is usually like a wood glue. And that's what Titebond is. But it did not work out well for me. I did use the yellow PVA glue, Titebond brand, and it turned everything yellow. I have found out since that if it's a yellow wood glue, it's supposed to dry yellow. If it's a white wood glue, it's supposed to dry white. It's supposed to dry the color of like the wood it's being applied to, or the item is being applied to. Let's see. And again, very, very crunchy, very cracky, doesn't hold up. Not recommended for, so if you're going to use a wood glue at home, like your husband has some out in the garage and you want to try it and you're going to thin it out with water, I would test it before you use it so it doesn't make your products crunchy and have them fall apart. This has so many glues on it, it's not even funny. And then, last but not least, because we have one more, is the collage adhesive, or the Liquitex acrylic medium. And this one's really nice because, wow, this one's super flexible. You can do anything with this. I mean, it's strong, it's flexible, it's not going to fall apart. The one thing is you can't see through it very well. So it's not very see-through compared to like the matte medium over here from Walmart. That one's pretty see-through and it looks more like rice paper, and because you can see the dryer sheet through there. But this one is very obscured, but it is nice. It's almost more like fabric instead. Yeah, this stuff is actually pretty cool and I like it, and I'd even paint it and use it like a fabric. That's a good idea. I might try that with something. So this I like to use a little bit diluted, but not much. So I really find that these mediums are doing better than the straight-on PVA glues that I diluted down. Those are cracky. These are more expensive, a little bit more. This isn't that expensive. It was like $4 at Walmart. But yeah, so the mediums I have found are really good. Now the other one that I would say is good, and I was shocked, was the Mod Podge. The Mod Podge might have been the best. See how you can really get a clear picture of my fingers through there compared to the Walmart brand or the Liquitex. And the Mod Podge is strong and thick, and I only did one. I did not dilute it with water. So I did one layer of glue on one side, one layer of glue on the other side, and I only used tissue paper. I didn't use the dryer sheet in between. Maybe that's why it's so see-through. With the dryer sheet, it might have been a little more obscured. But man, it feels thicker and it feels just as strong as the Liquitex and the Walmart matte medium. So I would highly recommend. Look at it, and it's very strong. Yeah, I would go for the Mod Podge. Oh, wow, I'm surprised at how strong that is. And that's not even with the dryer sheet. The dryer sheet would make it harder to tear. You know what? I would call this the winner for trying to make any faux rice paper. And the benefit to faux rice paper is not as expensive. I mean, rice paper is really expensive. It has the cool fibers on the inside. It looks really nice. And you can make your own patterns with stamping, different things on this, and that makes it fun. You can find really pretty, some of your favorite napkins, beautiful napkins, and I really like these. This was from the Dollar Tree. You guys might have seen this or even have some of these napkins at home. And I thought these were really pretty and turned out nice. So if I would have used the Mod Podge on there, gosh, I'd use it. I wouldn't have any problems using that. That is so nice. This has the Walmart one on it because I can tell it's so shiny. The Mod Podge did turn out a little shiny, but man, that is so strong and nice and flexible. What I will say is I used the matte medium Liquitex on this one, and the rose petals turned out really gnarly. So not recommended for this. The rose petals, if you remember, over here with the Elmer's Grill glue turned out kind of nice and pretty. These went brown and yucky. It was gross. So not recommended. The rose petals weren't a win for me. I might have to work on that later, see how it responds to the Mod Podge. And here's some stamping on the tissue paper before putting the yellow wood glue over it. So that was kind of fun to just stamp it and do my own thing here. Again, I did the stamping over here. So it is nice to make your own version of paper or do some, script or something like that and have something different to work with, have a different texture, have a different medium. Like the one, I might try it as a fabric because it really kind of turned out neat like that as a fabric. So these are the final results of the testing, and I'm glad I tested them out before I went and made massive amounts of faux rice paper and was really excited and then have them all crack and fall apart. What I originally thought I was going to do is I thought I was going to make these little pocket purses and maybe give them to people, but that would have really been disappointing to give these to people and embarrassing and have used the Titebond glue and then had them crack and fall apart. Yeah, that would have been awful. What I did is I also did this is a hot glue in a mold, and so I did a little daisy mold there, put it on the outside, and I thought it looked really cute. I was going to stitch it with some yarn on the sides. This happened to be part of the pattern that went up there, and then it started to get really crunchy after a couple days. So that was very bad, and that's what led me to testing everything. Final word is be careful when you do your rice papers. If you do try this at home, when you stack them together on top of each other, what has happened to me is they start to stick. I know somebody else who did this online and she didn't have that problem, but I had these gripped together with a paper clip and I had a hard time getting them apart after a couple days because they just started to stick and adhere. I don't know if you can hear that stickiness. Tried to put you near the microphone. So maybe after it dries after a few weeks and kind of cures, it wouldn't do that. But right now, yeah, it does stick to each other. So I would put a little thin layer of tissue paper. In fact, I'm going to show you here. Here's some of my pages that I did with the matte medium. So I've ripped some of these, trying to pull them apart because they stick. And so I got a little bit of red on there and some of the silver here. So definitely put tissue between them if you're going to try this. And these were all with the Liquitex, and I was surprised that those stuck together. But really, they're still very much usable. They're kind of fun items to use. And oh shoot, see that one totally ripped right there. I pulled it off and I ripped that. So yeah, that's not good. That is not good. So I think if I glued it in a journal and had a regular piece of paper against it, it'd be fine. But it's once you stick them on top of each other, they do stick together. And I don't know if it's because they just haven't cured over a few weeks or not. And this is a big one. Look at that. This one's held together pretty well too. It hasn't tore or anything, so I don't know why, but this is just a few napkins put together with the dryer sheets in between. And you know what? I didn't even put, yeah, there's still the dryer sheet. So I didn't put another layer on outside. It's just dryer sheet, tissue paper. Oh, so that's why it didn't stick to itself. Boom, boom, because that's just dryer sheet, so it's not sticking to itself. That's yeah, so maybe you just do one side. Yeah, so that's an awesome one. One of my favorites. And I really like the bunny rabbit too. Sorry, I'm showing you all of these. But I do want you to understand and know what's going to happen if you try this. You know, I'm able to absorb the expense and the testing and the time it takes. to do these where somebody else may not want to do that. And what I'd hate is for you to go and do a big project or a project and think, oh, this is going to be so cool, and then have it fall apart, especially if it's something that you might give as a gift. All right, so that is our test of faux rice paper and how to make it, what kind of glues to use, what to try. Again, I think the Mod Podge is the winner, and next would be the Walmart. Those would be my two favorites. And I would not thin them down with water very much at all. I would just use them as is almost. Maybe just a tad bit of water. Definitely not the Elmer's and not the Type Bond. And the Liquitex is great, but you won't see through it very well. It's a lot more obscured. So thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for going along this investigation. It's been a lot of fun, and I have another video coming out where I like to test and try different things, and so I'll be doing that and presenting some new information. I really think glues are important, and so I probably will focus on glue and paper and how that reacts to how different glues react and work together with paper and fabrics, and what works and what doesn't work. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, go and have a great crafting day. Thanks for your visiting. Oh, and you can visit me at www.tiffscreatives.com, and that's my store where you can buy papers and beads and jewelry and different things there. So please check it out. Again, www.tiffscreatives.com. It's just, it's a wonderful store, and instead of having to make all the embellishments yourself, I do that for you at reasonable prices. So thanks so much, and you have a great day. Bye.